Waitresses of Reddit. What is the weirdest conversation you overheard while serving a table? A man proposing a swinger lifestyle to her wife. She did not like it one bit. And there I come to bring them their drinks in the middle of the conversation. I can't believe you're going to lose your virginity tonight, said at a family table. I like to think they were all quick-witted and were purposefully fricking with me. I don't really remember the name used, but it went like this. What's Jennifer up to? Oh, she's probably fricking my husband. This was at a table of 5 women who looked to be in their 60s. Golden girls just don't give a frick. Last night was pizza trivia night at the restaurant I serve at. I'm helping a couple in their mid to late 50s with pop culture questions against restaurant policy. We're all laughing and having a great time when the wife leans over to her husband and says, "She's so cute. Can I ask her to come home with us while I'm standing there?" I laughed it off and got a $40 tip on a $60 check and their phone number. Edit. My poor inbox. LOL. So to keep those inquiring minds informed, no, I did not call them back. Just not my thing. I'm in a committed relationship with a wonderful man, and jeopardizing what we have for $40 is dumb. They are regulars of mine, so Wednesdays should be interesting now. The wife was the really pushy one, too. Also, not Brad and Angelina. One day I was cleaning tables out on the patio when I noticed these 2 men had spread cheap Parmesan cheese all over their table. I went over and asked very sweetly if I could clear it off for them. They shift awkwardly and one asks, "This is for mosquito?" "No, this is cheese." They turn to each other and yell in unison, "It is cheese." Turns out they were Danish and very nice, just confused. I can picture that conversation unfolding and it's hilarious. I was closing late one night and had a couple really high teenagers come in. They could barely sit up in the booth and ordered $80 worth of food for 2 people. One of the guys ordered an iced tea and asked for Splenda with it. I bought out his drink and set it on the table along with the sugar caddy. This kid just stared at it for a minute and then asked which packet was Splenda. I told him it was the yellow one. What color is yellow? He finally asked. I pulled a packet out of the caddy and handed it to him and walked away before I couldn't hold my laughter in anymore. As I was walking away, he turned to his friend and asked, "Can she tell how high I am?" They tipped me a quarter. More awkward and sad than weird, but it was a conversation between a man and his 10-year-old son. The man was berating his son over his golf game. I work at a country club, so this isn't exactly unheard of, but the dad was being super intense with his criticism. He was calling his son a quitter for wanting to stop playing, and telling him that if he quit now, he'd always quit everything in life. The kid sat there and listened numbly for about 10 minutes before I came over to refill their waters, and my presence causes the dad to pause in his speech. As I'm walking away, the kid says Evan doesn't make me play golf. He tells me to do what I think is good for me. The next time I'm on the floor, I see the dad is just heartbroken. I ask a co-worker who had been there a few years what the situation was. Apparently the man and his wife were divorced, and his wife remarried. He had his son on weekends and they'd golfed together. The kid was apparently pretty good, but had developed other interests. I could be way off, but I see it as a father who was trying to connect with his son, but being a bit heavy-handed at it. The thing that gets me is that the guy doesn't come in with his son anymore. He comes in alone and drinks a lot at our bar. He doesn't say too much. My stomach drops every time I see him. So sad. While I was working at a Jose's Crustacean Hut, I was serving a well-dressed, seemingly happy couple. They ordered a steam pot for 2 and a side of fries to share. Right after I drop off the food, before I'm even out of earshot, the husband confesses to having been cheating and that he wants a divorce. She starts bawling her eyes out to the point she's doing the whole gasping for air between sobs thing, and my manager immediately rushes over to try and see if it was something she could fix, because a full restaurant on a Saturday night is not the place for screaming, sobbing women. In the end, the couple stayed for 3 hours, didn't touch any of the food, and just had me throw it all out. Very weird day. I used to work at a bakery bistro type place, and one time there was this table of a 4 or 5 brunch while ladies talking quietly to each other. I overheard one of them say something about an orgy, and another responded, also about the orgy. I walked past their table again to try and overhear more, and realized they were talking about 4G. This is like the plot of a really crappy Verizon commercial. Years ago I was working in a Pizza Hut in a not so great neighborhood outside of Atlanta. I was bringing a pizza to a table where I heard two kids who were no older than 7 in the middle of this conversation. Kid A, best step down B. Kid B, try me. Kid A, see you at the crossroads, and pointed his fingers like a gun at the other one. Kid B, no, see you at the crossroads motherfucker. Then I asked them to sit down so I could serve the pizza. I was hoping for some bone thugs. I am not a waiter anymore, but about 6 years ago I was working at an Italian restaurant in California. A couple came in for lunch, ordered 2 iced teas and a 3-course special, appetizer, entree and dessert, each. Maybe $25 total. The portions were smaller. After they down it in like 25 minutes when the guy gets on one knee and proposes to the lady. Keep in mind, this is like 1145 on a Tuesday. She covers her face and the guy spends 20 minutes on one knee trying to convince her to say yes. It was the most uncomfortable thing that has ever happened to me. I had to go drop off the check while the guy was still on his knee because he called me over. Anyway, they leave and they come back in 2 months later and engage, so it worked out. Give it another couple months. I was a waiter at a wedding once, and as I was serving the main course came up to a table where 2 guys were being introduced. The first one says to the second, so you're swinger right? The second one says, yeah, you're with Kirsty right? I fricked the crap out of her while you were away for work. Guy number 1 shakes his hand and says thanks for looking after her so well or something similar as I was walking away. Saw them later getting on like a house on fire. I work in a local Greasy Spoon. There was a young couple in maybe their early 20s eating breakfast. At one point the girl dumps a pharmacy's worth of pills on the table and starts counting them out. When I walked by to check on them she started acting super paranoid, and as I walked away I heard her say to the guy, maybe we shouldn't be doing this here. There's cameras, and she proceeded to move all of the pills back into her bag and they left. Got a really nice tip though. Something more humorous. Had a man in his 60s come in for lunch by himself. He was reading a book and I recognized the title. It was Fingersmith, which is a steampunk lesbian romance novel. Got a good laugh from that. Fingersmith sounds like it would be about steampunk lesbians. I work as a cook in the most popular Thursday night bar at my school, but I also have a window for customers to order from and I chat with them quite a bit. Needless to say, almost all conversations people verge on the side of weird. However, some take the cake. My favorite was 3 girls who came up to get some french fries, and while they were being made started to chat, mostly about boys. As the fries were being cooked they included me in their conversation and tried to get my opinion on how to find the right guy and which guy they knew was the hottest. As their conversation progressed, one admitted that the only guy she wanted to frick was one of the other girl's brothers. This became the facet of the discussion as she began to drunkenly go into details about how hot he was, why he was so hot, and why she wanted to frick him. Meanwhile, the second girl stood there awkwardly with a look of shame on her face while her brother was picked apart sexually by 2 of her best friends. While not the weirdest story I have, definitely one that will stick in my brain. As an older brother, I really hope if my sister was ever in this spot she would do the right thing and hook me up. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think I would save so much money if I just ate one big meal a day. Yeah, but like, then you're going to get hungry later. Yeah, I guess you're right. Pretty sure they were high. This sounds like a conversation between the residents in Animal Crossing. I was working as a pizza delivery driver, technically waiting right, and I pulled up to this house. Inside you could hear 2 people arguing about something, and the woman yells, "Frick you. I'm gonna go and frick the next guy that says hello to me." She answers the door. I said hello. Here's your pizza. I unfortunately didn't frick her, but she gave me a $20 tip, which was nice. We had a guy bring in his wife so he could tell her he wanted a divorce without her causing a scene because they were in public. When I went over to take their order, knowing full well how awkward this was, he said to her, "I'm honestly not that hungry. Do you want to split a sandwich?" To which she replied, "No, I don't want to split a fricking sandwich. You just said you want a divorce." When they left, she had taken her heels off and was walking on the opposite side of the road. At least she handled it better than the crying one. This happened the other day at my restaurant. Not really weird, just a hilarious dad moment. Young kid: "I heard today that one of the members of One Direction left the band. Dad, does that now make them Two Directions?" Classic dad joke right there. Kid: "Mother. Dad, yup." Noticed a kid at my school was sitting in a booth on the other side of the restaurant. I offered to trade sides with the other busser so I could go say hi and such. This kid, by the way, is openly gay and very flamboyant at school. I started walking up and hear his dad talking about how proud he was that his son just got a girlfriend. The kid noticed me and looked pretty embarrassed. I feel pretty bad for him and hope his family is accepting of him no matter what if he eventually does tell them. I was serving two middle-aged ladies at a suburban Applebee's. I think they each had one drink, at most. They are having a great time, clearly catching up. As I gather the plates up after their meal, the one woman motions me closer and whispers, "We're all made of stars," and she draws out the last word, stars. I think she must have been on some sort of medication. Totally unexpected. She thought you looked like Moby. A woman told me she just had a hysterectomy. I didn't know what to say. The only thing I could think of was congratulations. I mean, I wouldn't just go prostituting yourself yet, but it's glamorous. Absolutely serious conversation heard on the patio between four married women. I don't even know what was meant by what they said. Still trying to figure it out. Sounds like immediately before, one woman confessed she didn't really love the boyfriend she's with now, but she stays with him anyway because he's super rich and lavishes her with gifts and lets her host parties on his yacht. From a previous thread, all credits to you for nouns. I have two stories that I have been dying to tell. 1. I had man come in for dinner. I work in a 4-star restaurant. Sweating bullets from the time he sat down. He and the lady were obviously a couple and the entire staff guessed what would happen, especially after he ordered a $300 bottle of champagne to start the meal. She looked happy, but worried through the entire meal. When the dessert came, he got down on one knee and I heard her say, "Please don't." Those two words stopped my heart. I cannot imagine what this poor dude was going through. They had a hushed conversation and she ran out. Literally ran, while he sat there still holding an open ring box. He finished the bottle of wine they had ordered during dinner, and pretty wasted turned to me and asked, "Why won't she let me love her?" Just like that. Like I am going to give him some kind of answer to explain the complex and painful thing that has just happened. I told him that sometimes we fall in love with the wrong people, and the only people worth anyone's time are the ones who give back what they get. He finished the bottle, paid his tab and walked slowly to the parking garage. I never saw him again. 2. I used to wait tables at a Bob Evans that was located across the street from a nursing home. Whoever chose that location was a genius because old people love the crap out of Bob Evans. But I had an elderly couple who came in every day for lunch and ordered the same thing. It got to the point that I would have their meal on the table by the time I saw them crossing the street from the window. They usually only got applesauce, banana bread, mashed potatoes. One day the old man came in alone after a week of absence. He never said it, but I knew she had died. He still ordered for her and let the food sit on her side of the table every day. I cried more than one time delivering it. I hope one day my future husband loves me that much. From a previous thread, and yes, this is my story and happened to me. I'm a cook, really a chef, but I don't like the term. But one of my servers came back to the kitchen with a 1,000-yard stare on her face. I ask her what's wrong. She just says 41, meaning booth 41. 41 is 2 tables from the kitchen, so I act like I'm making my rounds in the dining room. I get near 41. It's 2 nice mid-40s looking people dressed business casual from what I can tell. The woman is drunk or high or both. Passed out with a biscuit in her beer and smells like pee. A plate full of utmost expensive dinner in front of her untouched. The guy with her smells like he crap his pants and has never bathed. Mind you, they're clean cut looking people. He's happily chewing away mouth open on crab legs, mashed potatoes, steak, He's slamming his beer and chomping away. I just give a smile and nod and keep on walking. I make it near the bathrooms, turn around and just watch them. He proceeds to poke her with a crab leg and says, "Can I have your bud when we get out of here?" She drunkenly mumbles what sounds like the fish and the ferry won't fit up my butt. I look behind me toward the kitchen and all my cooks and quite a few servers are piled around the guard station, just holding back laughter and looking at me. I look at them and say I have no freaking idea what to do here. About 10 minutes later he finishes his food. She wakes up, downs her beer with biscuit in it. They pay their tab with 20% tip. I had to close that corner of the restaurant for the rest of the night because the freaking smell wouldn't leave that area from them. I even took the booth seats out back as soon as they left. Their stink somehow soaked into the wood of the booth and lingered in my restaurant well past closing time. I made my cooks stand around the booth and smoke after closing in hopes that the cigarette smoke would smell better than they did. I've heard a lot of mean, useless crap. But I remember one lady saying she wasn't going to tip my co-worker because the food she ordered was too expensive. Someone said that about me like 3 weeks ago. I cried. It had been a long night. I know I'm late and it's probably not what you were looking for, but I wait tables in an assisted living home, an old folks home, and have one table filled with men with dementia that have the same one of two conversations every day. First, they introduce themselves. Then they either talk about how one of them had a cousin who was his age and was more or less a brother to them, or about how the union saved everything. We used to work for $1 a day, and it was hard work too. We'd still be coin it today if it weren't for the union. And if you didn't join you were called a scab and they'd burn down your house or car. Those were the days. I've waited Chinese food for 5 years now. At the first restaurant I worked at I heard a table of old women talking about how one of them was going to kill their husbands and what she was going to do with the insurance money. I stopped by to fill waters and asked what the talk of the day was. Whether, according to them. In hindsight I should have said something, but I was 15 and scared shitless. Most recently, a guy in his early 20s was having lunch with his grandparents, and as I go to drop off the check he gets all upset and says to the grandma, "I shower 3 times a week now." Jeez. Same day in the bar I heard Sin's girl end her story with, "And that's how I learned what midgets tossing was." My favorite was a few years ago and it was a brother and sister in the 70s. I had waited on them before. They always sit in the same spot, away from people and near the kitchen. I come out of the kitchen and turn the corner and the lady is giving her brother the bird, screaming, "Frick you Morty. I should have smothered you when I had the chance." That's true sibling love right there. I was working late night on a slow Thursday at the local pizza shop as a driver. A man comes in to look at the menu board and asked me if his wife could use our bathroom. The place was takeout and delivery only, so we didn't have public bathrooms. I got the okay from my manager, and the guy motioned through the window for her to come in. Manager shows her to the back, and the guy says he doesn't see anything they want, so he is gonna wait in the car. When my manager comes out, she says the woman is not okay and is incoherent. When we looked out the window, the guy is hauling tail out of the lot. He had picked up a mentally challenged girl, abused her and dropped her off. We called the cops, and they took her to a shelter. Super creepy and sad. Whoa, that's really depressing. Poor girl. I hope they caught the sucker. I once overheard a mother tell her 12-year-old daughter, I'm guessing on the age but she looked fairly young, that she was not planned. I walked by just in time to hear her say, "Don't worry honey, even though you're an accident, you're a well-loved accident." The girl looked at her mom with the saddest look on her face and burst into tears. My mother always said each of her 3 kids were proof that you shouldn't take seriously anything that is poked at you in fun. I work as a host. Last night, I had a middle-aged couple come in. I ask if it will be for 2 and the gentleman tells me they need a table for 3. The woman he's with immediately shoots him a confused look. I ask for the name of the guest joining them so we can show her to the table later. He says, "Christine." She takes a deep sigh and say, "Really? She's coming?" To which he replies, "Well, she was invited," in a tone that suggests he wasn't a big fan of Christine either. Fast forward 15 minutes, a nice middle-aged woman comes up to the host stand and says she is looking for her husband and his coworker. Of course, she tells me she is Christine. Not a single one of them looked comfortable for that entire dinner. Current OG slave. Some of the weirdest conversations I hear are about myself. She's so young. Do you think she has kids to support? Why isn't she in school right now? It's Olive Garden, not a strip club. She has to be wearing colored contacts. Green eyes aren't real. I get elderly men who tell me they are lonely and ask if I will take them home, just for the night. One man told me it was his 94th birthday, and when I asked if there was anything special I could do for him, he said, "Yay, you can sit on my face." I almost got fired that day. I get bitchy high school girls who try to quietly talk crap about me being just a waitress and a total loser in life all the time. But the all-time weirdest was when I walked up on two stoned, and I mean completely toasted, college students discussing aliens. They could be one of us. How do you think we can do organ transplants? That's not natural. We can't grow organs, so where do they get them? Illegal aliens, man. They land here, but they're just like US, so we take their livers. Not a waiter, but a busser. I overheard arguing of a young couple with a small child. What I presumed mom was anxious, and the father very upset. The child started the talk and the dad straight up yelled at him. The boy started to cry, and that's when the dad, who is like 20, hit the kid in the face. I ran to the back to tell my manager what happened. He confronted them, and they ended up leaving with the police. I don't know what happened after. Not a waiter, but 2 nights ago I was with a friend out for drinks and we could overhear the people next to us chatting, and they were drinking. I haven't missed an AA meeting in over a month. I haven't missed an AA meeting in almost 6 months. To Alcoholics Anonymous. To no more DUIs. We left pretty quickly after that. I used to deliver pizzas, and there was one particular old couple that simply defied nature by refusing to die. These people ordered pizza. The man always had a cigar lit, and was hands down the most vulgar man I've ever met. Also my favorite customer, while still being extremely nice. It's not exactly a conversation, but every time I would ring the doorbell, I would hear something along the lines of "fricking heck, the pizza's here," and then a symphony of "goddang Walker and crap, I need my billfold." As he made his way to the door, his wife always called me sweetie and was unbelievably soft spoken and loving. This man made my day every time I would deliver to him. The other day I overheard a table trying to figure out how they could get their friend in Japan to retrieve some used panties from a vending machine and send them back to the States. Apparently that's a thing there. They aren't. That was a custom, single vending machine that was shut down. I wasn't a waiter, but I was a cook. This awesome wealthy old couple came every day around the same time. One day I heard a woman quote a Nick Swardson joke. It was the greatest day I've had at that job. Then the next day they came in and the man yells that his food tasted like wolf pee. To this day this old couple and I are good friends. I'm not a waitress. I overheard this conversation from a table beside me. A woman was transacting with this pregnant woman about a fake positive pregnancy test. It wasn't so much weird as it was surreal. This fella came in with, I assume was his wife. He had scars on his face, almost as if they were a part of a reconstructive surgery, and he was in full military uniform. He was sweating buckets and his wife was rubbing his back telling him it was going to be just fine. He gestured at me to tell me something. In about 15 minutes a woman is going to walk in with a little girl. She's going to be wearing a blue flower dress. Don't tell her I'm here. She thinks she is just having dinner with my wife. I told him I would let him know as soon as she arrived. Sure enough, 15 minutes later a woman around her late 60s wearing a blue flower dress carrying a little girl showed up. She said, "I'm here with my daughter-in-law, she should be upstairs." And when she went upstairs and she turned the corner and saw him standing there, she broke into tears and the little girl jumped down and yelled, "Daddy." That was the longest family hug I had ever seen. It was the most tear-jerking moment I had witnessed in a long time. I had to take a break to finish sobbing in the supply closet. When I was a waitress, I once overheard 2 women talking about a sexual assault that happened to one of them recently. The absolutely insane part was that neither of them seemed to realize that they were talking about a rape, just the annoying sex habits of one of the woman's significant other. It was like being in a really dark comedy. That's depressing. I know I'm late to the thread, but I have a couple of decent ones. One time I was serving a large family and what looked to be the eldest brother, looked maybe 30 tops but had a cane, was acting weird. I go to take their order and he starts yelling at his little sister, maybe 12, and cussing at her about how she ruins everything while the rest of his family just try to order. The guy storms out and the mom orders for her crying daughter. About 5 minutes later he comes back, shamefully orders his food, and then they continue to eat and talk like nothing happened. They left me a nice tip though, and the other sister stacked all of the dishes super neat in the middle and wrote "You're an amazing waitress" on the napkin. And then I had these two guys that weren't even my table, but every time I walked by they would look at me and loudly say "butt sex." Sounds like they were trying to weird you out for fun, kinda like the penis game. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.